Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Going Rounds podcast, episode 96. I always have to look. I don't know why I even say the episode all the time. It just pops in my head. But we're back to talk some more fights all around. Lots of boxing today, though. It's kind of weird. There's a lot of boxing stuff going on. But UFC 301 is this weekend coming up, and it's not the craziest card in the world, but it's gonna be all right. It's in Rio de Janeiro. The King of Rio is back, Jose Aldo, out of retirement, coming back to I don't know, maybe finish out his contract so he can be free from the UFC, or who knows, just doing it for money. He's gonna get paid. I'm not sure, but either way, he is back and he's here to fight again. So he's gonna be on this card, and a few other decent names, few other decent fights, one title fight. So 301. I was thinking about doing a watch party, but my younger daughter's birthday is coming up, and we're gonna celebrate it this weekend. So nothing crazy going on, but she wants to do something on Saturday. So yeah, there goes that. Which is no big deal. I mean, this fight card is this fight card's not that crazy. 302 is gonna be good. 303 is gonna be good. So those are gonna be the ones we're gonna capitalize on, and hopefully nothing else crazy comes up and we can do some watch parties because it's been a minute. I was thinking 300 would be a big one, and it didn't happen. So other than that, I'm liking the new hat. What do you guys think? I know people are probably like, you spend a lot of money on hats, but I actually got a great deal this time. I basically spent $50 and I'm going to have like 7 hats, but that's because I got some, shout out to Fanatics. They did some promo a few weeks back, last month, when we were in Vegas. Actually, I got this promo, and it was like, the new Fanatics Sportsbook, deposit $50 and bet the $50, and you get $250 in fan cash. So I was like, I got to take advantage of that. Well, I didn't do it right away because it goes off a location and it's like showing up as Vegas. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this when I get back. I did it when I got back. Everything looked legit and cool. And then I did the bets. I deposited the 50. I made the bets. Everything went through. Lost my ass. And I was like, shit. Now I'm just waiting for this fan cash to come through. $250 for fan cash. I mean, if you don't know what fan cash is, it's basically the credits they give you for, it's like a reward system. Well, they're going to give you $250 worth for doing the sports book. And shout out to Trend too, because she's the one that saw that first and was like, hey, check this out. So I think she saw it first. Either way, we were both talking about doing it. And so I made the bets and everything, and then I waited and waited and waited, and I didn't see it come through on my account. I'm like, what the fuck? If you go to the website and you're checking out gear or whatever, it usually tells you, if you're logged in, it tells you how much fan cash you have available. Wouldn't change. I had like $1.75 or something. I was like, I should have $256.75 or $51.75. Like, what the hell's going on? So this is why I say shout out to Fanatics, because on their Facebook Messenger, there was a post about some hats, for some Braves hats, obviously. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should message them and see if they can point me in the right direction for this. So I did that. Social media is a good place to do that at, apparently, because I never really do anything like that, right? But I was like, listen, I deposited the $50. I lost my ass. Bad bets on my part, no big deal. That's my gamble, right? That's what I did. I chose to do it, no big deal. And but $50, I'm like, shit, could have done something else with that. So yeah, I'm going off of the email they sent me. It was all legit. I knew they were just starting up their sports book and all that. So I messaged them and I got a response, and they're like, yeah, they'll get back to you in like 72 hours. Wait. Don't get shit. 72 hours goes by. The next day in the morning, I'm like, fuck this. Back to the messenger. So I messaged back. They got me in touch with the right department and whatever. And they were like, asked me some questions, requested some information. Gave them everything they wanted. Well, I started, doing it through email. So did all that, and then I was sitting there waiting, and I'm not thinking anything would happen that same day. And that same day, it's like, hey, we're happy to tell you that your $250 in fan cash is now deposited into your account. I was like, oh, shit. All right. Sitting right there. Luckily, I was on lunch for work. I'm like, let me see what's up. And I ordered like 3 hats, this being one of them. I thought it was pretty sick, kind of different. If you notice, I wear lots of Braves hats, and they're all different colors and variations of the hats and whatnot. But and I wear some Colts hats too when it's football season, but I like my Braves, and I like the Braves hats, so that's what I have most of. Now I have a ton, and I was like, you know what, this 250 is going towards more hats, because that's what I wear on the podcast, and that's what I wear. I even wear a Braves hat to work. So anyway, I'm making this long. It doesn't have to be, but I got my $250 in fan cash. I bought 3 hats right away. Went back on later that week, showed my wife some other hats, and she's like, shit, get those too. I was all, okay. So I got like 4 more on the way. So I got a total of 7 hats, and I paid a little over $50. I did have to pay a little more than the what was left after the first 3 hats, but it wasn't much. It was like $20 tops. So pretty nice. And then when you pay in all fan cash, you don't pay taxes, and then I had free shipping already. So my first round was straightforward. Whatever the price said, it was done. I'm like, damn, this is nice. I don't know how that goes, how that works, but it's pretty dope. So I got some new hats to show on the podcast. And on the other, I wore my first new one on Tuesday night for the Technically Unsound podcast. If you are interested in checking that out, we go live Tuesdays and Sundays. But yeah, I debuted the first new hat on that show, and I was like, well, I'm going to wear the second one for Thursday. And I always bring them back around, so I always wind up wearing them on this podcast. But they wind up showing up on Technically Unsound first. So if you want to hear me talk about anything other than MMA, go check that out. It's the other podcast I do with a couple guys, DJ Tommy, DJ Magix, and sometimes other guests come in. But yeah, check that out. Technically Unsound podcast on YouTube. Yeah, Tuesdays and Saturdays. Right now we're on at 7 p.m. Arizona time, so check that out. As for me, that's it. This week, work is work. Craziness here and there. I think we got some stuff coming up. Might have to go out of town. But what else is new? I need a drink. Other than that, hopefully a fun weekend coming up. Some good fights coming up. So let's get into it. And let's start with the pretty much all boxing combat sports news I have going on here. So if you're a boxing fan, here you go. But first off, you're not going to like this one. I mean, it is Mike Tyson. So, hey. But Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, I know people are probably tired of hearing about it. But there's some news that happened recently. Before it was an exhibition fight. So that was kind of shitty. They were talking about 16-ounce gloves, possibly even headgear for Jake Paul and some other kind of crazy-ass rules or whatever. I think they landed on, 2-minute rounds, 16-ounce gloves, some special things that they needed to do in order to fight or whatever. But the biggest thing was exhibition. Like, come on. What are we doing here? Jake Paul's trying to be a professional boxer and be legit and all this shit. And he's doing exhibitions in the middle of saying he was on his path to becoming this like legit boxer. So it was kind of stupid. But here we go. This matchup is still kind of, I don't want to say dumb. It seems pointless. He should have kept on that track that he was going. But everyone talks shit about who he fights anyway, so why not fight a big money fight like Mike Tyson? Because it's going to bring a lot of eyes, and they're rolling in the combat sports into live Netflix TV. So if you have Netflix, you get to watch this live and free because you don't have to pay any extra money. So like ESPN Plus, you have that app. You can't say it's free. No matter what, you're paying for the app, right? You're paying for the subscription, all that shit. But then you got to pay on top of that the pay-per-view. That's what you got to do with UFCs. You're paying your monthly rate, or if you pay outright yearly, you're paying that rate to subscribe and have the service. But then on top of that, you got to pay your $80 a month for the fucking fights. So with Netflix, for now, I'm sure they're going to change it, but for now, especially with this fight, Saturday, July 20th, you get this fight for free if you're already a Netflix subscriber. So there you go. You're paying your $13 a month, $19 a month, whatever plan you have, you get to watch this free. So there you go. That's good. That's a plus. That'll bring more eyes. And of course, they're rolling out combat sports and live sports on Netflix. They already have WWE over there. So that's what they're doing. But yeah, so the new rule set, it is now a sanctioned pro fight, which means it will go on both these guys' records. So adding to Mike Tyson's long list of fights that he's had in the past, and Jake Paul adding to the not so long list, but he's so far only has one loss to Tommy Fury, and it wasn't a bad one. So it is a sanctioned fight. That makes it a little more interesting. It doesn't seem so fake, if you want to say that, I guess. But and then they're still doing 2-minute rounds. It's going to be 8 rounds total. You know, normal fights are like 3-minute rounds, and 3-minute rounds and 10 or 12 rounds total. I believe 12 is the normal fights. So still a little bit different in the rules or whatever, but yeah, that's what. And then they're wearing 14-ounce gloves, not 16. So that's better, but still, like, normal fights are about 10 to 8-ounce gloves depending on the weight class and all that. But they're wearing 14s. So it sounds like they're saying it's, you know, to kind of help protect Jake Paul a little bit from, you know, those massive punches of Mike Tyson with the speed and the power and the, you know, experience he has. The way he knows how to punch, I don't think Jake Paul knows how to punch. But it also helps with Mike Tyson, who's going to be 58 years old when this fight happens, and it's going to help him a little bit too. But who knows? Mike Tyson has abstained from doing everything he normally does. He's usually microdosing mushrooms or macrodosing sometimes as well, it sounds like. He smokes weed on the reg, doing edibles and smoking and everything, but he has quit all of that, says he's not doing any of that shit, and it's making him irritable. It's a challenge for him, and he says it's putting him in the mindset of being a killer again. And that's what, if you listen to him on Rogan before, when he wasn't fighting, he said he, you know, tries to stay out of that mind frame because it can be dangerous. So he's trying to get himself in that dangerous mindset. And, you know, Mike Tyson's a mean motherfucker when he's in that state. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. But for now, that's the rule changes, and that's the news on that. So I wanted to touch on it just because I was happy specifically that it is now a sanctioned fight and it's legit, you know, instead of being an exhibition, because that comes with, I don't know, it just seems weird being an exhibition. It feels fake, and, you know, people don't take it seriously. So it's good. It's a good thing that it is now a sanctioned pro fight, and it will go on their pro records. So let's move on to the legit boxing match of the weekend. Canelo Alvarez versus Jaime Munguia, happening this Saturday, May 4th. You know, Canelo usually fights Cinco de Mayo weekend. I don't think he did last year. But usually around this time is when he fights. So happening on DAZN, but I guess it's actually going to be like on Amazon Prime as well, from what I was seeing all over the place. So, but yeah, man, I mean, well, first of all, let's get to the actual fight. You know, Alvarez is a heavy favorite over Munguia. I mean, he's a little older, 33 years old. Munguia's 27. Alvarez is a little bit shorter, but yeah, I mean, the reach, Munguia's got the reach a little bit there, but the experience goes to Alvarez. He's got more KOs, and he's a minus 550 favorite right now, just going off of these odds. And Munguia is a plus 385. So that is the match for the weekend. Should be a big one. You know, Alvarez fighting on Cinco de Mayo weekend makes sense. That's what we know. But and me not even being the biggest boxing fan, I know that. So but yeah, the craziest stuff coming out of this right now is the press conference. Canelo versus Oscar De La Hoya going on in that one, and there's so many memes, so many clips, so many things on social media that's hilarious because Alvarez is going off, fucking talking shit about De La Hoya, saying he steals from his fighters, that he's a snake and he's a bitch and all this other stuff. He, fucking pussy motherfucker. That's what he, because he doesn't speak English that well. And the way that he cusses is so pointed and so precise. He's pussy motherfucker. He's just, and then he starts cussing him out in Spanish. They did this whole back and forth. Now fucking De La Hoya is saying he's gonna sue him for defamation because it could hurt his business if anybody agrees with him or believes him that De La Hoya is stealing from his fighters and all this shit. He says he's on the up and up, and obviously he's paid everybody the money that they were owed and that they were due and that they were agreed on and contracted. So I don't know. There's always shit going on with De La Hoya, though. He seems to always be in the mix of some drama, whether it's talking shit about the fighter he's promoting or being in the ear of Ryan Garcia. Any of that shit, he's always there. And Alvarez just doesn't give a shit and doesn't take any shit, and he'll tell the truth, at least his truth, and he's not shy about it. So it's funny. If you haven't seen the press conference, go check it out, or at least watch the clips all over the place. I've reposted a bunch of them. My social media is going on down there at the bottom. On this screen, it's always down there, and on my other screen, it's always at the bottom right hand corner, I believe. So go check that out. But anyway, yeah, this is the big fight for the weekend. And staying on that boxing tip, we got some Ryan Garcia news. If you didn't hear, he dropped dirty apparently for and tested positive for banned substance, Ostarine. But he, of course, Ryan Garcia, being Ryan Garcia, goes on a social media rant about how all he took was ashwagandha root. And he's like, my bad, I shouldn't have took this. He's like, I need more steroids, I'm addicted. Because everyone's talking about how he's a cheater and all this other shit. He's like, and he also says, they're trying to take my greatest victory away. Kind of sad when you think about it. I don't care, I love God and he will make this right. I love you, Jesus. Nah, I ain't going to rematch him. I beat him easy, fair and square. I'd be damned if I rematch him. When they're talking about, this is in response to people saying, are you going to rematch Haney now that, you've been, accused of dropping dirty and all this other shit? And then he continues with, why in the world would I volunteer for a drug test if I planned on taking drugs? Make it make sense. Because they were testing through VADA, which is the Voluntary Anti-Doping Agency, which, basically means the fighters have volunteered. It's not the World Anti-Doping Agency like WADA or USADA, who's the United States Anti-Doping Agency. These are all the testing agencies. There's corruption in all these. People talk shit about how they, fuck things up all the time or play favorites or hide shit. But the VADA one, it's voluntary. So this is all I know about it, is that it's a voluntary thing. If both parties agree, they do testing through VADA. It's a voluntary thing. It means it's not required for the match, but both fighters have said they'll do it to make sure they're both on the up and up. So he volunteered to take drug tests, and then this happens. So who knows what's going on with this, but and I don't know if we'll ever find out if it's true or not. So far, they're saying Devin Haney and everybody's saying that it should be overturned to a no contest instead of the win, but it's obvious Ryan Garcia dominated Haney, and if he cheated, he cheated. I think the only way he cheated was by not trying to cut that weight and saying, fuck the belt, I want to beat him. I'm not going to make the weight because I fucked around this camp, and maybe that's a way of cheating. I don't know, but it's not a legit way of cheating because no one has that saying that that's not right. And Haney took the fight with knowing that he was overweight. So it is what it is. But Haney did put out a statement saying, we learned about this situation not too long ago, and it's unfortunate Ryan cheated and disrespected both the fans and the sport of boxing by fighting dirty and breaking, I think it meant testing positive, not once but twice, because they're saying that the test that he took before the fight was positive, and the test that he took after the fight. I've always been an advocate for clean fighting, and this is an example of such. Ryan owes the fans an apology, and by his recent tweet, he still thinks this is a joke. We put our lives on the line to entertain people for a living. You don't play boxing. This puts the fight in a completely different light. Despite the disadvantage, I still fought on my shield and got back up. People die in this sport. This isn't a joking matter. And he's right about that. You know, if you're cheating, shame on you. It's fucked up. And then on top of that, if he really did cheat, then he played the whole weight game. And there's that part too, where 3 pounds doesn't sound like much to people, but when you're fighting, when you're boxing, when you're throwing bones against bones and trying to put people unconscious, it's a different thing. So yeah, it sucks. So I'm hoping he didn't drop dirty, because the weight thing was already an issue. But in the end, I mean, he boxed a hell of a fight, and he did stuff to Haney that no one else has done. So no one's gonna forget about that. Either way, it might just be, you know, a stain on his record and on the fight with an asterisk or whatever. But after time, people don't give a shit. And if he moves on and continues to do great and is clean and stops with the weight bullshit, it won't matter anyway. So that's it for Garcia and Haney. Let's get to some MMA related, but still on the boxing tip news, which is Conor McGregor is now a part owner of the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. So you see him here with this belt, and that's because, you know, like the first event he went to, it was a big old thing, made a spectacle of it. He's out in the crowd yelling and screaming, being crazy. I mean, in a good way though, not like the dumb shit that he does sometimes. And then he winds up facing off with Mike Perry in the ring, with the belt on his shoulder, looking like he's the champ. It's kind of funny. But either way, I mean, he showed a lot of interest. He's constantly tweeting about BKFC. He's, you know, I mean, like he does with MMA, but he's all over it, and he loves the sport, I guess. And I wouldn't be surprised if after the UFC you see him in it and doing it, if the UFC ever lets him. But for now, they let him go over and be a part of. I don't think that he could have done this without the blessing of Dana White and the UFC. But who knows? Because McGregor plays by different rules. There's different rules just revolving around him in general, because he is the star and he puts butts in the seats. So sometimes those guys get to do a lot more than other fighters get to do, and playing around with their contract and stuff. So that's some crazy news there coming from Conor McGregor. He said welcome, they said welcome to the big leagues. And I saw some other post that was like, I forgot the owner's name, but he's like shouting him out, telling him, hey, we did it, look. He's like, bare knuckle fighting is going to be a whole different thing now. But I mean, it's probably not. His presence is going to be more known and seen around there. So that's some fun news. And then now we get to some more MMA related stuff, but not in a good way. It's rather unfortunate, pretty goddamn sad. And I actually wish I would stop the music for this one, which maybe I should do. I can do that pretty easily there, or not. Apparently it wants to just keep playing, so I'm just gonna let it play. But this is sad. Francis Ngannou, who not too many people sounds like they knew that he even had a son, but his son passed away. It's fucking sad, man. He was only like a year and a half, or like somewhere near there. He said too soon to leave, but yet he's gone. My little boy, my mate, my partner Kobe was full of life and joy. Now he's laying without life. I shouted his name over and over, but he's not responding. I was my best self next to him, and now I have no clue of who I am. Life is so unfair to hit us where it hurts the most. How do you deal with such a thing? How can you live with it? Please help me if you have an idea, because I really don't know what to do and how to deal with this. And like that last part, man, that, oh God, that shit hits different. Like, for him to just be just on social media and just be like, someone help me, like, how do you deal with this? That fucking hurts, man. Just to see, I mean, the poor guy, you know, the boxing stuff, it is what it is. He lost his last fight against Joshua, but that ain't shit. And nothing else matters when it comes to something like losing a child. I couldn't imagine it. Even as they're grown up, I don't want to have to live through losing a child before I pass. It shouldn't work that way ever, especially when they're babies though, man. Little kids and man, fuck. It's rough. And I feel bad for Ngannou. There's nothing you can say there's nothing you can really say. It just sucks. And a lot of people are just like, you know, reaching out and saying, you know, condolences and all that stuff, but nothing's gonna help him. He's got to get through it on his own and with time. And of course, people are gonna be there to support him, and hopefully he lets them, and hopefully he pulls through this, because I just couldn't even imagine that and going through that. So, you know, my thoughts and well wishes are with the family and stuff, and Francis, and hopefully he can push through and make peace at some point within his own time. So RIP to little Kobe. Man, that's rough. So yeah, let's move past that one respectfully, and let's get to the recap of UFC Vegas 91. Damn, I'm all out of sorts now. Also known as UFC on ESPN 55. All the different names, you know, that's what they do. That's the UFC for you. You never know what the event's called. Just gotta Google it. But I always pick the Vegas name if it's in Vegas, happening at the Apex, all that bullshit. So this one was last Saturday. Fuck, what the fuck is his first name? Is it Mateus Nicolau versus Alex Perez? Nicolau's first name kills me, because it is Matheus, so it's, yeah, Mateus, I think, Nicolau versus Perez, whatever. I'm all tongue twisted now, but you know, nothing crazy here. I wasn't expecting much out of this fight card. You know, normal fight night happening in Vegas, and sometimes it just gets to be a bit repetitive. They've used up all their big stars. They got more coming up soon for 302 and 303, but for now, you know, just like this pay-per-view this weekend, it might not blow you out of the water. You know what I mean? But it's still fights, it's still MMA, and it's still what I cover. So let's get into it. Lower on the card, there wasn't a whole lot of big names happening, or, you know, fighting down here at the bottom. Few submissions in there. Chris Padilla with a rear naked choke over James Yontop, something like that. Ivana Petrovic versus Na Liang. That was an arm triangle choke submission. And then there was a lot of decisions in these prelim cards, so that really sucks, especially on a fight card like this. You got to get all the way up like seven fights in to get a finish, besides those couple of submissions in there. But Austin Hubbard did get a win over Michael Figlak. Unanimous decision win there in the lightweight division. Austin Hubbard being a recent Ultimate Fighter winner. Victor Henry versus Ronnie Yaya. TKO head kick and punches in the third round. Victor Henry with that bantamweight victory there. And then we get to the main card. Uros Medic versus Tim the Dirty Bird Means. And man, I went with this one. I went with Medic here because he was the younger fighter. He's on a roll. Tim Means is such a back and forth, man. He'll lose a few, win, lose one or two, win, lose one, win one. That's the way he works. And you know, he's up there in age. I think he's like 40 years old now. And I mean, he's still an impressive fighter for the most part, but you know, he's not gonna be in contention anytime ever, probably. And yeah, he's still doing the damn thing. But Uros Medic is a fucking beast, and he came out and put in work against Tim Means and winds up getting the TKO in the first round, 2 minutes and 9 seconds in. Quick one for him there. I feel for Tim Means on that one, but that's a tough opponent, man, to fight somebody of that, I don't want to say of that caliber, but with that kind of talent. And he's definitely on his, on the rise, and he's been looking impressive. So for Tim Means to go against that guy, it sucks. And I let me check and see real quick. Tim Means was coming off a win, I believe. Yes, he was coming off a win, but before that, he was on a 3-fight losing streak. So in his last 5 fights, he's 1-4. And fuck, man, that's tough. I like Tim Means, but I like his nickname. I like him as a fighter and stuff, but he's just not been all that impressive. I mean, Medic was coming off of a submission loss, but he just looks like he has what it takes to make a decent run and have a good career in front of him. So it's just a tough fight for Tim Means, especially with the way that he's been fighting recently. So yeah, there's that one. David Onama versus Jonathan Pierce. Onama looking pretty impressive in this one. This was a catchweight fight at 149. I don't remember which fighter. I believe it was Pierce that missed weight. I don't know that it was Onama. I can't remember. But this was a unanimous decision win for Onama. But like I said, looked pretty good in this fight, landing good strikes, and gets the better of Jonathan Pierce in that unanimous decision win. Lots of decisions on this card, so that sucks. But we got Johanna Denise versus Austin Lane. Austin Lane being the former NFL player for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And yeah, I was talking about how he just can't, he only had a couple fights in the UFC. He's like 1-1, but he just didn't look good. He lost once in the Dana White's Contender Series, came back, won. They gave him a chance in the UFC, and now he's 1-2. So, and Denise is no joke. I believe he was undefeated. And he might have only had, he's 7-0 overall. And I think it might have been, it was his UFC debut, but he looked good with a first round KO win in Dana White's Contender Series prior to this fight. And once again, in the second round, at least it went to the second round, but in the second round, he gets a KO by punches over Austin Lane. This big overhand right, catching Lane in the chin right here. And Austin Lane just, I think he tries to just rely on his power and hope to not get hit, but he doesn't have a lot of head movement and seems to get hit a lot, and his chin just doesn't hold up. So this might not have been the best route for him to go, but he gave it a shot, and we'll see where he goes from here. But now he's 1-2 in the UFC, so I'm not sure what's up for him next. He didn't look great in these fights, so unfortunately for him, KO'd in the second round by Denise in the heavyweight division. Moving on to the women's flyweight division, we had Karine Silva versus Ariane Lipski. I had all of my picks right until this fight. So I went with Medic, I went with Onama, I went with Denise. But on this one, I'm thinking the Queen of Violence, Ariane Lipski, was gonna, get out here and put some hands on Silva and stay off the ground. I mean, even though she's a beast on the ground as well, and it just didn't happen that way. Silva just overtook her in the fight and wound up getting the best of her overall, and gets a unanimous decision win over Ariane Lipski. And Silva just continues to be dominant in that division, and continues to move her way up there. I believe she is undefeated in the UFC with 5. This makes 4 wins in a row, so she's 4-0 in the UFC, continuing on that path. I thought Lipski would give her a bit more competition, and while she still made it a decent fight, it wasn't the best look. But in the end, Silva gets the win by unanimous decision. Moving on to the light heavyweight division, we had pushed the wrong thing. There we go. Bogdan Guskov versus Ryan Spann, and here we go again. I lose the women's flyweight fight with picking Lipski. I went with Spann. I believe he was the favorite, not by much, but I believe he was the favorite. And Guskov, I'm thinking, looks like a beast. Might have what it takes, considering he has the Anthony Smith look. And Spann, it just does not do well against Anthony Smith, having lost to him twice. But yeah, Ryan Spann just couldn't hold it together. Made it to the second round, but he gets TKO'd by punches in the second round by Bogdan Guskov. And here you see him with a big right. Nasty uppercut right here, landing right on the chin of Ryan Spann. And, you know, that about does it. Wraps it up. TKO in the second round. Guskov continuing with the Anthony Smith lookalike and with the Anthony Smith streak against Ryan Spann. I hate saying that, but he really does look like the international version of Anthony Smith without the tattoos. Anyway, moving on to the main event. Mateus Nicolau versus Alex Perez. And on this one, let's see, who did I go with on this one? Let me check. I think I went with Perez because he was the underdog, and I didn't have too many underdog picks. So I thought I went with him. This is the only one I wasn't sure of. I know I lost the Silva fight. I know I lost the Spann fight. Let me see. Oh no, I went with Nicolau. So I won the first three fights. I picked correctly on the first three fights. I fucking fucked up on the last three. I only had two underdogs, and that was Lipski and Onama. So I should have traded out Lipski for Perez, and that would have made for a better, you know, instead of a 500 win percentage there, which isn't bad, I guess. You know, 3 out of the 6. But I would have done a lot better had I done that. Anyway, Perez just looking good. I was just thinking he wasn't, the way things had been going, Nicolau was just looking like the better fighter at the moment. But Perez he just did better. That's all there is to it. I mean, he's connecting with big shots, following through with them even, and just landing on the chin, precise shots, big punches, big power. KO in the second round, 2 minutes and 16 seconds into the second round, and he gets the KO win over Mateus Nicolau, folds him up, and that was the night. That was it for UFC Vegas 91. Perez looking good. We'll see what's up next for him, but overall, you know, decent card, I guess. Nothing crazy. Lots of decisions. So let's hope that that's not what comes up for UFC 301. I'm hoping for something better. Let's get into that card right now. Man, I blew through that. I didn't think that was going to go that fast. But UFC 301 is coming up this Saturday. Pay-per-view. Alexandre Pantoja versus Steve Erceg. And then Anthony Smith, who is fighting on this card as well. But Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo. The return of the King of Rio, fighting in Rio. And Pantoja fighting in Rio is there's a lot of Brazilian fighters on this card. Every fight has a Brazilian in it. So if you want to go with the all Brazil parlay, you could do that, because there's at least one, you know, there's a Brazilian in every single fight on this card. Alexandre Costa versus Kevin Borjas in the flyweight division starts off the card. Ismael Bonfim versus Vince Pichel in the lightweight division, which Pichel, I haven't seen him fight in a while. I hate his fucking mustache. I don't know if he still has it right now, but he's a cool guy. He was on the MMA Roasted podcast for a while. He's pretty funny, but Bonfim is no fucking joke. So that's going to be a tough fight for him. But Pichel seems to get wins over some of these really hard opponents sometimes. So you never know what he's going to pull out. That could be a good one. That could be a banger, actually. Something is tickling my nose and it's killing me. And it's going to make me want to sneeze. Let's go to the women's flyweight division. These are all the prelim card, or the prelim fights, by the way. Dione Barbosa versus Ernesta. Oh shit, I heard how to say this name. Ernesta Kedescache, I think. Either way, she's undefeated, 5-0 against Barbosa, 6-2 in the women's flyweight division. Moving on to the men's lightweight division, we got Mauricio. I don't know if it's Hoofy or Roofy. It's probably against Jamie Malarkey. That's in the lightweight division. Mauricio's 9-1, Malarkey's 17-7, and then we got another. Oh shit. I have to do something about this mouse because it is driving me nuts. Every time I try to scroll up, it scrolls down, and vice versa. It's fucking annoying. But the men's lightweight division, again, Joaquim Silva versus Drakkar Klose. Drakkar Klose is Clark's boy. He trained with him in the past, I guess. So here in Arizona at a gym. I don't know how he got lucky and did that, but yeah, he's always rooting for Drakkar Klose, and that's what it always reminds me of. Klose is a cool guy too. I mean, I've heard him on some podcasts, and he seems like a good dude, down to earth and everything. So, and Clark speaks highly of him as well. So it's gonna be a tough fight against Joaquim Silva, though. That dude's a beast, and you know, similar records here: 13-4 for Silva, 14-2 for Klose. That should be a good one in the lightweight division. And then we move on to Jean Silva versus William Gomez in the featherweight division. 12-2 for Silva, 13-2 for Gomez. And then you got Elvis Brenner versus Mick Tybeck or Orolbai. I think half the time it's just a challenge to say some of these guys' names. That's a men's lightweight fight. 16-3 for Brenner, 12-1 for Mick Tybeck. I think that's how you say it. And then you got a familiar name there, Karolina Kovacevic, who's fought for a title, I think multiple times, in the women's strawweight division against Yasmin Lucindo. Kovacevic 16-7, Lucindo is 15-5. And then you got Jack Shore in the featherweight division fighting Anderson Brito. 17-1 for Shore, 16-3 for Brito. That should be a good one. Yeah, and that brings us to the main card. Shit, I might get through this one in just over an hour. I feel like I'm just flying through it, but that's okay, because yeah, not a ton to cover. I thought I was gonna go off a little more on some of those topics in the beginning, which I kind of did, but that recap was quick because there's just not a whole lot going on. Fuck. I'm just can't wait until 302 hits. That's when things are gonna pick up in June. May is gonna be kind of slow. I don't even know. Well, I'll have to look later and see what kind of fight nights are happening coming up in between 301 and 302, just to see if we're gonna get any kind of a build-up or if they're just gonna sit there and be like, here you go, we're dangling 302, just get through the rest of these. At least there's still fights that I know of. So let's move on to the main card here. Paul Craig versus Caio Borralho. And yeah, I mean, I feel like this could be a really good fight. It could end quickly if Borralho gets a hold of Craig, but Craig is a good submission artist. He's got some decent power too. I mean, you can't discount his striking, but that's not really what he's known for. He's known as a great submission and artist and a grappler and stuff, so he's good on the ground for sure. Paul Craig is 36 years old, 17-7 overall, 9-7 in the UFC. There's that KO TKO record of 4-4. So I mean, he wins some, he loses some. 13-2 overall in submissions, 13 wins by submission. That's pretty fucking impressive. He's 0-1 in decisions, so that might be a point of contention there too. That might be a way if it gets to the end of the fight and it goes to decision, that might not be good for Paul Craig, depending on how the rest of the fight goes. And he's coming off a loss. And his opponent, Caio Borralho, is he's got some crazy neck tattoos, which you don't really expect considering he just has some random tats all over, but nothing crazy. And then he's got just these gigantic tats on his neck, which when I saw it's even more eye-popping when you see him in person, because I saw him where was he? Well, I saw him at the Fan Expo, and then I saw him at Circa, at the pool at Circa, when I was watching the fights there during International Fight Week last year. But yeah, I mean, he's a cool dude too. He's funny as hell. 31 years old, 15-1 overall, 5-0 in the UFC, 4-0 in KO TKOs, 4-0 in submissions, and 7-1 in decisions. He's on a 5-fight winning streak because he's undefeated in the UFC. And I think he's like on an 18-fight win streak overall. Let me look. Well, I'll look that up in a minute. But yeah, this is a tough fucking fight for Paul Craig. Paul Craig is a beast, and he's, I mean, you never know what you're gonna get out of him and what kind of fight he's gonna put up. But he definitely has some impressive wins and impressive fights. He broke Jamal Hill's arm in a submission, you know, before Jamal Hill was up there in the top of the division and winning a title, but when he still had his hair grown out, which is crazy. But yeah, he broke Jamal Hill's arm. I mean, shit, Jamal Hill went out like a warrior. He didn't tap, got put in that arm bar. Paul Craig snapped it. He's impressive as fuck on the ground, and he's a tough guy. But, you know, on the feet, he's been beat before. So let's check out who and his nickname's Bear Jew. It's kind of crazy. He did lose by submission in his last fight though, which is weird, to Brendan Allen. That was in November of last year. So, you know, he does lose both ways either way. But that's only one of his 2 submission losses. Let's see, he's got a win over Andre Muniz. That was a TKO win for him. That was his last win, July of last year. He's got a couple losses to Johnny Walker and Volkan Ozdemir. I mean, his strength of schedule is way better than Kyle's, but especially with the people he's fought. Like I said, Jamal Hill, he beat Nikita Krylov. He beat Shogun by submission. So, yeah, I mean, he's got some impressive names on his record there. So, anyway, that's Paul Craig for you. Which I lost my spot. I should have had this up. There's one of his submissions, and I mean, if he gets a hold of you and drags you to the ground, you got to have some damn good defense. And I know Borralho is good on the ground as well. You know, he's never been submitted in a fight, so that might be something good for him. He probably has good defense in that case, or he just hasn't fought anybody with the talent of Paul Craig on the ground. My nose is just driving me nuts. Sorry, it's probably not the best thing to look at, watching somebody just fuck with their nose, but it's driving me crazy, and I don't know what the hell's going on. Probably dog hair or something. My damn dogs were jumping all over me earlier. But anyway, moving on to Caio Borralho, who is 15-1 overall and 5-0 in the UFC. Let's see, he beat Abu Smagomedov, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, Mahmoud Muradov, and Armen Petrosyan. So again, some pretty decent names there. He came from Dana White's Contender Series, and he does have, you know, his last, let's see, 3 out of his last 4 fights have ended in decision. But there it is, you know, Paul Craig is what was it, 0-1 in decisions. So I mean, if it goes to decision, Braulio kind of has the upper hand here on everything. He's never been beat by submission, and he's never been KO'd or TKO'd. And Paul Craig has like a 500 percentage win on KO TKOs, and he has a lot of submission wins. But if Braulio's never been beaten by submission, I mean, it's a toss-up here, right? I mean, that's what I think. But if it goes to decision, I'd bet all my money on Kyle. So I'm not sure here. It's back and forth, but my overall pick, which I will go over at the end as usual. I'm not betting on this one because I'm not going to watch it live, and I just don't feel good about all these matchups. There's only 5 fights in the main event. I mean, in the main card. Why do I always do that? The main card only has 5 fights. So when it comes down to it, it's not that crazy. So I'm just not going to bet on this one. Put my money away for right now. I'll wait till 302 when it's some fights that I'm really invested in. But yeah, moving on to the next matchup on the main card. Michel Pereira versus Ihor Pretoria, which Ihor Pretoria is a beast. And he did that disrespectful shit against Shogun when he retired Shogun after knocking him out. But Michel Pereira is that crazy dude that comes, he fucking uses up so much energy just walking out to the cage. It's crazy. He's doing backflips and fucking handsprings and cartwheels, and he does all the same shit in the cage while he's fighting. He's like doing backflips and landing on people. Like, what the fuck, man? But he's kind of crazy. He's been on a fucking roll though. He's on a 7-fight win streak, 30 years old, 30-11 overall, 8-2 in the UFC. So he has a lot of fights under his belt in MMA. But yeah, he's been on this 7-fight win streak, this fucking tear. And I've bet against him every goddamn time. So this time I'm betting with him, and I'm taking him over Ihor Pretoria, just to throw my pick out there right away. But yeah, he's 11-1 in KO TKOs, 8-1 in submissions, and 11-8 in decisions. Again, on a 7-fight win streak, with wins over, let's see, Nico Price, Andre Fialho, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Andre Petrosky, and Mikhail Zaitchuk. There's a lot of big names in there. Again, let's see, and a mix of wins, TKO, submission, decisions, a lot of decisions, kind of, yeah. But yeah, a little bit of everything there. So that's Michel Pereira. Ihor Pretoria is 27 years old, 20-5 overall, 2-3 in the UFC. So I mean, not a great record there. Kind of has a losing record. Not kind of, he does. But he's a Dana White Contender Series guy too. 5 and what is that? 5 is that 5-4 or 9-4? I can't even read that. 9-4 in KO TKOs, 6-0 in submissions, and 5-1 in decisions. And he's coming off a win over Robert Bryzak. So if you look at the strength of schedule here, Pereira definitely has the upper hand, and that win streak is crazy. So is he going to keep that momentum and, you know, get the win here? That's pretty much what I'm betting on. But let's see who else. Carlos Oberg, he has Pretoria has a loss to Carlos Oberg and a win over Shogun. That was that one I was talking about. So, but Michel Pereira, like I said, is man, I keep losing my fucking spot here. What the hell am I doing? There we go. He's always doing these high flying maneuvers, crazy flying knees, and all kinds of shit in the air. He's got a lot of energy. I don't know how he doesn't spend a lot of his energy getting to the cage and circling the cage, doing all kinds of shit. So watch out for that. If you want to be entertained, watch his walkout because it's crazy. But Ihor Pretoria is that guy who's just kind of, you know, stoic and looks mean as hell. So we'll see what kind of a fight he puts up against Pereira with that long win streak. He's on a roll, man, and sometimes you can't stop those guys. But Pretoria might be the one to be able to do it. Who knows? There's that KO win over Shogun that retired him. But that does it for that fight. Moving on to Anthony Smith versus Vitor Petrino. This is a tough fight for Smith, man. I always like to root for Smith, but he just hasn't done a whole lot recently. I'm sure he's he's coming off a loss. He's 35 years old, 37-19 overall, 11-8 in the UFC. He only has 4 more wins and losses. 20-11 in KO TKOs, 14-4 in submissions, and 3-4 by decision. Coming off a loss to Khalil Roundtree. That was a TKO in December of last year in the 3rd round. But he has fought a lot of big names. He's got those 2 wins over Ryan Spann. Lost to Johnny Walker and Magomed Ankalaev. But I mean, Jimmy Crute, Alexander Raychik, Glover Teixeira, Gustafsson, John Jones, Ozdemir, Shogun, Rashad Evans, Thiago Santos, Hector Lombard. Fuck, man. He's fought the who's who in MMA. He's a analyst right now for the UFC, always on the desk. He's got a podcast with Michael Bisping as well. But he does talk a lot of shit. And I don't mean in this like crazy malicious way. It's just like every time he's talking shit. Kind of low key, kind of outright, I guess, in a way. It's weird, but there's always some kind of shit. People are like, somebody take the fucking mic away from him, because if he's not on the desk at the UFC, he's on this podcast talking shit. But he's a good analyst, and he's good on the mic when it comes to being an analyst. So I don't enjoy him so much on the podcast. I think that kind of his style of, I don't know. I like the guy overall. It's just sometimes he bugs me and annoys me when he's on that podcast and stuff. So, but his opponent, Vitor Petrino, which, I mean, I should remember to say that, I mean, Anthony Smith, he's a badass. He's a warrior. This dude can take some, he can definitely take some abuse and take some damage and stick in there. I mean, look at his eye in here. Even though he gets his win over Ryan Spann, he gets beat up. He takes a lot of hits. So that's something to keep an eye out for and to remember when it comes to Anthony Smith. And that's why, you know, a lot of people have been talking about him needing to retire, him needing to just hang it up, because, you know, he just can't seem to do what he used, you know, he just can't seem to do it anymore to the same level that he was doing it before. So, but we'll see how he does against Vitor Petrino, who is 37. Oh man, I'm reading up the wrong shit. 26 years old, 11-0, 7-0 in KO TKOs, and 1-0 in submissions, 3-0 in decisions. Undefeated guy. I don't even know why they're feeding Anthony Smith to this guy. It kind of sucks. He's got his last win is over Tyson Pedro. Also has a win over Modestas Bukakas and Marcin Pacino. So, I mean, he's a Dana White Contender Series guy too. Undefeated, man. This is going to be a hell of a fight. Hopefully Anthony Smith at least puts up a good fight against him, even though I went with Petrino just because, especially when Smith fights guys like this who maybe he should beat him because of his, you know, being a seasoned vet and all the people he's fought before. But he's not going to be an easy out. But it's hard to say that he's going to win this one. So that's that fight. It's tough because I like Anthony Smith, and I would love to, you know, bet on him and root for him, but I'm just not. I'm not feeling it on this one. But again, I'm back and forth on these fights, and that's why I don't really want to put money on them this time. So I'm just making my picks for the show, and you know, I'm just trying to, I don't know, brush up on my skills with picking and see where I'm at. You know, trying to figure out what I'm thinking when I'm picking these fights and how I'm picking these fights. So let's move on to the King of Rio in the co-main event against Jonathan Martinez, who's a beast too, man. This guy is definitely has a lot of potential and has been doing big things. But Jose Aldo's a legend, former longtime UFC champion, and coming back out of retirement, 37 years old, 31-8 overall, 13-7 in the UFC, 17-4 in KO TKOs, 1-1 in submissions, 13-3 by decision. Coming off a loss to Merab Dvalishvili, which was his retirement fight, and Merab didn't make it. I mean, Aldo didn't make it easy for Merab, but Merab definitely got the better of Aldo, and it wasn't a super impressive fight, but it was super impressive that he beat Aldo like he did, and nullified those, that striking and the leg kicks and all that. Maybe not completely, but he definitely did a good job of it and came out with the win over Aldo. So, but this is Aldo coming back. Is it for the money? Is it to finish up his contract and get and not be under the UFC banner anymore, so he can move, go off and do whatever he wants? He's participated in boxing before and done well, so maybe he wants to just be able to do whatever he wants. Who knows? But he's back for this fight, at least, against Jonathan Martinez. 30 years old, 19-4 overall, 10-3 in the UFC, 9-1 in KO TKOs, 2-0 in submissions, and 9-2 in decisions. And he's on a 6-fight win streak. God damn. Yeah, like I said, he's a beast. He's looked very impressive as of late. And let's see. What the hell did I do here? Let's see. Let me get to Aldo with his striking. I mean, he's pretty precise on his striking. He's got good striking. He's so fucking fast. Like that was what he was known for back in the day. And the leg kicks are just horrendous in a good way for him. But when it comes to being the guy receiving those kicks, holy shit, he has beat the shit out of some people's legs. And was it Uriah Faber, I believe, that he kicked the shit out of his legs so bad that Faber couldn't walk for like 2 weeks. Let me just double check that, because I want to. Yeah, Uriah Faber, and that was in the WEC, which was one of the first fights, not that fight specifically, but one of the first organizations I was like into besides the UFC. Had all the lower weight guys and stuff, and it was fun to watch. But Aldo was a star there and carried it over into the UFC. He, like I said, he's got that crazy striking. He's very, very fast. He's got power, and those leg kicks are just killer, though. And if he lands on you, it's definitely gonna do damage. So there's some good examples of all that. And then, of course, you got to watch out for those leg kicks. But it seems like that's something he could have done in a lot of his fights leading up to his retirement, was to use those leg kicks a little more. It seemed like he slowed down a lot on that. I don't know if maybe he was having some issues with his legs, but it just seemed like he wasn't utilizing them like he did in the past. And I feel like that was something that really weighed heavy on the way that he fought towards the end of, his retirement there. I just feel like if he would have relied on those kicks a lot more, I'm not sure if maybe he was worried because so many people have been breaking their legs and stuff like that with checks and all that. But, and he does kick very, very hard. But for some reason, he just wasn't utilizing those leg kicks a lot. So we'll see if he busts them out again in this fight against Anthony Martinez, who, like I was saying, is just a beast. He's on a 6-fight win streak. He's just a mean prospect right now. Like, everyone's high on this guy for good reason. Coming off that win to Adrian Yanez, he beat Said Nurmagomedov, Cub Swanson, Vince Morales, Alejandro Perez, and Zaviad Laz. I can't even say that guy's name. His last loss was in March of 2021 over to Davey Grant. A lot of his fights in those 6-fight win streak have been decisions, but a couple TKO wins there. His last one being against Adrian Yanez, and he's got some nasty leg kicks too, because that was a TKO by leg kick for Jonathan Martinez. So if these guys go kick for kick, man, this could be fireworks all over the place. Look at that nasty body kick he's got going on there. But yeah, I mean, he's got the power in the kicks. That's a nasty head kick too, Cub Swanson. You can see that jaw just looking deformed while he's landing that kick. He's got the hand up there, but it went through. Those are the kind of kicks you get from Martinez, but can he match the kicks of Aldo? And will Aldo use those kicks? I don't know. I'm betting on, well, I'm not betting, but you know what I mean. Figure of speech. My pick is Jose Aldo here. He is he was the underdog when I checked. Not by much. It was like plus 195 or something like that. And just being Aldo, being the legend that he is, Hall of Famer now, coming out of retirement. It doesn't fare well for a lot of the guys that come out of retirement, but Aldo's one of those guys that I felt like he could have kept fighting if he would have just, maybe changed some things up here and there or whatever. But yeah, and I'm just betting on him this time. I mean, it's my pick. Martinez is a beast, and I'm not sure if he has that kind of strength of schedule to come up against a former champion and a legend and Hall of Famer like Jose Aldo, who can still do everything. I mean, he's not one of those guys that left the sport, with a bunch of KOs on his record and just looking real bad. I mean, obviously his career took a different trajectory after he lost that 9-second fight to Conor and lost his title, but he still looks very impressive, very fast, has power. Against Martinez, who's the younger guy, is gonna also be fast, also has leg kicks, also has power. I think it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be entertaining, and I'm interested to see who comes out on top here. I feel like it's gonna be a good one, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So here we go, main event for the title, flyweight championship bout. Alexandre Pantoja versus Steve Erceg. And this one, to me, this is a weird one because Pantoja gets beat up a lot in all of his fights. He almost always gets touched and takes damage. He's 34 years old, 27-5 overall, 11-3 in the UFC, 8-0 in KO TKO wins, which is impressive considering what I just said. He takes a lot of damage and he always gets hit, but he doesn't get KO'd or TKO'd, so that's a plus for him. 10-0 in submissions, that's a hell of a plus right there as well. He's great on the ground. And I do not know what happened there, but it's 9-5 in decisions. For some reason, I guess I put something else in there. It is what it is. I always do something. I always do something extra or fuck something up. It's all good. It's a lot of prep work. 9-5 in decisions though, so that is correct. And he's on a 5-fight win streak, including winning the title and having one title defense already. So, and his opponent is Steve Erceg, who looks very unassuming. And I mean, when I saw this guy, I was like, who the fuck is he gonna beat? But don't judge a book by its cover. Don't be like me. I know better too. It's just funny to say, because he looks kind of goofy. Looks like he should be sitting at a desk behind a computer, fucking working IT or something. And instead, he's a pretty damn good UFC fighter, undefeated, 3-0. He's 28 years old, 12-1 overall in MMA, 2-0 in KO TKOs, 6-0 in submissions, and 4-1 by decision. He's on a 3-fight win streak, obviously, but I think it's more than that. He might actually be on a. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh shit! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 fight win streak overall. But he's only had 3 fights in the UFC, and he's up here fighting for a title. So that's fucking impressive. He said he's had an 8-week camp, so he's had 2 months to prepare. Even though a lot of people are making a big thing about him being kind of short notice here, this is one of those fights they put together probably after his last fight, really. I mean, he fought back in March. It was a impressive KO win over Matt Schnell in the second round, and then now he's up for a title fight in only his 3rd fight. So first let's get into Pantoja before I go any more on Erceg. Pantoja's really, really good with the submissions. He's 10-0 in submissions. And yeah, so if he wraps you up and gets behind, you know, gets your back or gets your neck, it's about over. So, but his last 2 fights have been by decision. Brandon Royval and Brandon Moreno. Moreno is where he beat him for the title, and Royval is the first defense. That was his second win over Royval. He's got a win over Alex Perez, Manel Kape, and Matt Schnell as well. He lost to Davison Figueiredo, lost to Askar Askarov, but a mix of everything. Decisions, KO, TKOs, submissions, all over the place. But when he gets your neck, you got to be prepared because he will choke you out. He's good with those submissions. As you can see here and here. Oops. Did I fuck that up? I think I fucked that up. That's all right. I guess I went one too far. But yeah, that's the thing to know, the thing to remember. He's got those submissions, and he definitely uses them to his advantage. So that's something Usyk needs to look out for, but I don't think he's ever been beat by submission. If I remember, I just said that. Yep, 6-0 in submissions. So this is similar to a fight I was Paul Craig and Baralio that I was talking about earlier. So Usyk is a hell of an opponent. I mean, 3-0 in the UFC. Oh Jesus, there's that back. What happened here? I fucked this all up. Hold on, let me fix this because it's gonna drive me crazy. And somehow I screwed this up. So let's see. I told you right. There it is. There's a big right against Brandon Moreno. There's the choke. Another choke. This is where I was leading up to. And then here's his spinning back fist, which was nasty against Brandon Moreno as well. So he has good striking, but he does take a lot of damage and gets hit as well. So if he comes up against somebody with a lot of power, that's something you got to worry about. But those submissions, he gets you to the ground, or he might jump your back and get you in that choke. But Usyk does have some power. You know, big punch to the chin here. Already bloodied up Matt Schnell. He got that KO win over him back in March. So not too long ago. And that's why it was a worry as to what maybe he's getting in there too quick. Apparently he was eating KFC when he got the call shortly after this fight, or shortly after his last fight. And then, yeah, he had a 2-month camp. So, I mean, that's probably about the minimum that fighters usually want, but he got it. So that's good. And then he's got some big, this big knee here against Costa. Some good ground and pound against Costa as well. And then some submissions that he's good at. That's how he finished off. It was a submission attempt here against Costa. That was a unanimous decision win for him. But like I said, never been knocked out, never been submitted, only lost one decision, only has one loss overall. And yeah, this is going to be a fast one for him. But if you look at, this is something I've been seeing some people make this good point here, which is Daniel Cormier, Alex Pereira. There's just been multiple people, Rampage back in the day, that have come in and only had like single digit wins and then fight for the title. And we're talking like under 5 wins, and they're fighting for a title and win. Now, is that going to happen here against Pantoja? I don't know, because Pantoja is pretty well seasoned and has been through some wars. But he does get hit a lot. Like I keep saying it, but it's true. And he does sustain a lot of damage. But he does stay in there, and he does make it a fight. So that might be to his advantage, and maybe he'll frustrate Usyk and maybe be able to pull out that decision win over him. But I don't know that he's going to be able to finish Usyk, especially with the way that he's been fighting recently with the decision wins, just getting into wars with Moreno and Royval. Brandon Royval actually put up a hell of a fight against Pantoja in this last one. Some people actually thought he won. But overall, Pantoja's tough. He's good with the submissions. He's got good striking, and he's durable. And he still has the title to show for all of it. and he's still never been knocked out. So which way is this going to go? What's my pick? I'll tell you right now, I'm going underdog. I'm going Urseg. I feel like he might be one of those guys that can come in after only a few fights, regardless of what he looks like, regardless of what you might think of him. I feel like he's one of those guys that can come in and make a statement and be one of those part of that crew of guys that has only had a few fights in the UFC and fight for the title and actually win. If he doesn't win, it's okay. He's still young enough. He still has plenty of fights ahead of him that he can make his way back up to the title and possibly win it if Pantoja, is still there, or if he has another opponent, who knows. So that's it for the main event. UFC 301, my main card. I call it a parlay because it's just all my picks put together. And if you want to bet on it, bet on it. Don't blame me if you lose, though. I don't have the best record. But this card starts off with big, heavy favorites. Minus 675 for Kyle Braulio. That was a given, though. Paul Craig has a chance to win. But as I said before, I'm not sure that he can hang with Kyle. So I'm picking him. I'm going again with another big favorite, Michel Pereira, minus 650. And while he's on a 7-fight win streak and he's looked like a beast, and that's why. And he's fighting, who the fuck is he fighting again? I already forgot. But either way, it's hard to bet against him because I've bet against him in almost every one of the fights before, and I've lost because he's been on this crazy tear. He's fighting Ihor Pretoria, who has like a 2-3 record in the UFC. So that's why that is such a big that's why he's such a heavy favorite. Vitor Petrino, minus 295 favorite over Anthony Smith. Makes sense considering Anthony Smith's kind of record and how he's been fighting as of late. I'm just repeating myself here, but that's why he's kind of a bigger favorite over Anthony Smith, and I did pick him to win. But with the co-main event and the main event here, I went with the underdogs, and I could have swore I went with Aldo. So what the fuck? I guess not. I guess I picked Jonathan Martinez. So there it is. Because I think Martinez was the underdog, and now it's switched. And I think I'm thinking of what I heard earlier, which is Aldo is now the underdog, but not by much. As you can see, Jonathan Martinez is a plus 20 underdog. Not very far. If I would have bet on this at the moment, that probably would have been a good price to get him at. He might be the favorite by now. And he's a tough opponent for Jose Aldo, but will the King of Rio do well in his hometown? It's been good for him before, so this one might be tough. This is why I'm not betting on him again. And then I'm going to go with the underdog in the title fight, Steve Urseg, for all the reasons I said before. I feel like he has a really good chance against Pantoja, and he has a good chance of being part of that illustrious crew of guys that have won a title after only having a few fights in the UFC. So that's it. That wraps it up for UFC 301, and that wraps it up for me. Hour and 15, hour and 18, whatever it is. No big deal. I drug it out at the end. It's okay. Not purposely. I just kept going. So that's what we do here, though. You never know what you're going to get. I might go almost 2 hours. I might go only an hour. It's all over the place, but that's all right. Thanks for joining in. I hope if you're watching still, I hope you enjoyed it. If you watch later, thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Do all the good stuff for YouTube to help out my channel and help me grow it. Check out all my social media going on down there. Facebook and Instagram is where I'm most active. You'll see some TikToks pop up of mine here and there. And I'm also on X, but I'm not on there a ton. So yeah, and don't forget to watch Technically Unsound Podcast, the other podcast I do with DJ Tommy and DJ Magix, going on live Tuesdays and Sunday nights, 7 p.m. Arizona time. Come back here next Thursday, 7 p.m. Arizona time as well. Same channel, same time for the recap of UFC 301. Oh, I was going to look and see what the next events are past 301 until we get to 302. Because I'm curious. UFC Fight Night, let's see. 301 is this weekend, May 4th. The next UFC Fight Night is the Black Beast. That's right. Derek Lewis versus Rodrigo Nascimento. That's headlining there. Alonzo Menefield versus Carlos Oberg. Alex Caceres versus Sean Woodson. So nothing crazy there, but hey, the Black Beast for the Saturday after 301. Then we have Barboza versus Edson Barboza versus Lerone Murphy. Ooh, that's a tough card. Oh my God. Yeah, that one's going to be tough. So, and then we get to 302. So we got 2 fight nights in between. The rest of the month is going to be a little tough. But we will hang in there because we have Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier, Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa, Randy Brown versus Elizu Dos Santos, Roman Kopylov versus Cesar Almeida. Yeah, so not too bad of a card. The top of that card is real nice, though, with Strickland versus Costa, Makhachev versus Poirier. That's UFC 302. That kicks off June. There's 2 pay-per-views in June. So let's just get through May. But I'm going to be celebrating my younger daughter's birthday, Tenet Trend. Go follow her everywhere on Twitch, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. She's a streamer and a gamer. Don't forget to support her as well and wish her a happy birthday. It's actually next Wednesday, but we're celebrating this weekend. So, yeah, happy early birthday to her. I'll remember again next week. Till then, I'm done. I'm out. Enjoy the fights this weekend. Big boxing match, Canelo versus Munguia. And I believe there's a 1 championship fight on probably tomorrow night as well. I don't think there's PFL on this week. I didn't cover 1 championship because there's not been a whole lot of hype around it. Nothing crazy going on there either. But yeah. And then UFC 301 this Saturday. Come back next week for a recap. We'll go over all of it. See what other kind of combat sports news arise. Till then, I'm out. Have a good weekend. Peace.